Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Steve Sawyer here from the Developmental Trauma Training Institute, and here with an old friend and colleague. He's got a long history in working with attachment issues, and been colleagues for a long time now. Geez, I don't know, it was probably about 10 years ago now that we did a video together for Facebook Live a long time ago, and I want to introduce to you a good friend, Craig Clark, and I'll let Craig say a little bit about what he's done and where he's worked and some of his work with attach and those things, and introduce himself well.
Right. Thank you, Steve, and it's a pleasure to be here. You can see a little bit of the background here. We're sitting near a pond, and there's horses around, and a teepee just to my right, and beautiful sunrise. So we're really happy to be with you this morning. Like Steve said, we've known each other for over a decade and do similar work. Steve was brilliant in designing wilderness programs, and I referred to those programs at times. My work has been mostly in private practice, working with adoptive kids and foster kids. It's my preference and my area of specialization. Really love that work. I've also been a member and board member and now advisory committee member of the Association for Training in Trauma and Attachment in Children, which is attach.org. If you want to look it up, it's a great resource for both professional types and also any of the other helping community that's involved with working with kids and parents. So it is a place for parents to go and get support, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about in a moment. So I've been involved with them for over 2 decades, and I think one of the things that we want to mention today is working with trauma and histories of developmental trauma. These are things that affect, by definition, affect you from youth, from very earliest time, and even pre-birth, effects on the womb. We know there's all kinds of things that happen to the mothers sometimes, and in their situations that affect the kids through the biochemistry, and it just goes right in, and they feel basically what the parent feels at the time. So just by knowing that, we know how susceptible kids can be, even pre-birth, to misorienting to their world, really. And I say it that way because what happens is that after birth, they're preset because of fear of what they've heard or what they see later, and that changes their whole developmental trajectory. They can't accept the world, they can't accept people, and as I've discovered over time and through some of Steve's trainings, they don't accept themselves. And that really cuts deep. If you can't accept yourself, then you don't understand really what's going on around you and misinterpret a lot of things. So hence the attachment piece. Attachment develops over the first 3 years, and then through life it's theoretically fairly fixed. So if you start out in your relationships with people and they're not seen as friendly relationships, they're not seen as benign relationships where the child is held in esteem by the parents and respected, then you're on fight or flight all the time. And we keep using that term, but I want to go back for a minute and really, this is something that Steve started me on years ago with teaching in heart math, and be able to take a look at what the vagus system is doing, because the vagal system tells us if we're safe, if we're in a safe environment. And so right now I'm experiencing the safety of nature, of companionship with a friend. These are things that I can take in. But if you take a child that is disoriented to the world and can't feel security, and attachment security is where this term comes from, then they can't experience this as a safe place. They would be antsy, agitated, have physical symptoms that they might not even be totally aware of. So everything from, muscle tension, for instance, is not noticed. And they complain of stomach aches when things get worse, but that's only when they're really bad. So they carry around a body that is not feeling safe in the world. And so to do this work, one of the points that we want to make today, I think, is safety really does have to come first, and it's taken me a long time, I'll admit this, as a clinician, to really respect that need. And what it requires of the clinician is, I think, a lot of patience and a lot of work with parents, because there's not a magic fix to this problem that's taken years to develop. And you have to start at the very beginning, so the very foundation is safety and regaining some sense of safety. And to do that clinically, we have to use a lot of different tools, but the primary one is presence of self and being attuned to the client. And what this looks like, I'll tell some funny story here about working with families. I work a lot with family groupings, dyadically. I was trained by Daniel Hughes years ago, and dyadic developmental psychotherapy. It's a very relational model and very good with working with attachment. But what we didn't know 25 years ago was, well, it's that safety piece. So working with kids and families, the kids, are they going to feel safe when they walk in your office? No. And I've worked in an urban setting. It's an urban office, it's 4 walls in a building. It's not necessarily a safe thing. It's like, I used to be scared to death of going to the doctor. So it's like, well, I can imagine they kind of have that same feeling. But it's not until I got that into my head that I understand why they reacted the way they do, why they're so shut down, why they're so emotionally protected. So to explain to the parents that I might tell stories, I'll shift from dealing with the fact that they stole $20 from their mom's purse, which is what the parents brought into the session, and I'll shift to telling them a story about when I was backpacking and fishing in the Sierras. Now, why would I do that? Okay, so this is one of the things that I do consciously, is I'm managing that distress tolerance. We talked about a problem. Oh, now Craig's going to tell you a little story. Okay. Now the story on the surface doesn't have much to do with the problem. And this is where the parenting piece and working with the parents comes in. You can't just continue to do this. I got in trouble a lot earlier by just doing this week after week, and the parents call me up and say, we got to talk to you. You're so disorganized. You're not getting to the point. We want this kid to stop stealing. And I have to say to the parents, it's like hitting a nail in a board with a knot. You can hit it and then it stops. This is what the kid does in therapy pretty early. Walks into the office, it shuts down. Right? How do you get through that? Well, being friendly, telling stories. I got enough gray hair. I'm kind of the grandpa guy.
A good grandpa figure.
I do the grandpa thing, I kind of, tell slightly, just shift the topic for a couple of minutes. Therapeutically, I'm going, okay, I'm going to bring this back to a relational story, okay, and that's what I do. And if I watch the kid, and I've told the parents this in advance, and so they're not calling me up now going, well, what are you doing? Because the model I'm giving them is what they can do at home when the kid's freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a model of use of tone of voice, of proximity. I might be this close to my client. I might just kind of slide over, make eye contact when I can, but I don't force that. And communicating with body language, if you want to call it that, to give the message that this can be a safe experience.
Yeah, I love that too. It goes along with what I talk a lot about, which is connection before correction, right? Yeah, parents, any of us interacting with somebody who's done something that really upsets us, right? We want correction. We want it fixed now. We want them to own what's going on. I have a session later today where I have to deal with some of that, and right, parents coming directly from a reaction, and I talk about it on here a lot, reaction versus responding, right? And talking about being able to step into that place of connection first. That's really what I'm hearing from you, Craig, is that when people are struggling right out of the gate, parents and or a spouse, if you're doing couples work, right, the attachment injury, that something is wrong and something is bad, or somebody did something bad, versus coming back and seeing that everybody's doing the best they can, like from the 4 agreements, right, like to be there and then to connect. And I love your point around the story part of it, because we're coming in a space of reaction towards each other in any relationship, and to come back around to it, we have to deal with what happened, right? We have to interact with that, but then how do we just reconnect and then work towards correction? Right? That's beautiful.
And that's an important point. So clinically, again, if you have 50 minutes or an hour even, I usually stretch them to an hour, because that's just such a short period of time, really, working with a family, that, you bring that piece back. And I bring that back by bringing to the surface and making obvious what I've observed in the change of relationship within the clinical hour. So I look at the kid, and I look at the kid as relaxed. I see the parents, they're engaged. There's love in their eyes. We've switched. So we make observations about a change which has gone on maybe subconsciously, and that's the therapy. It's like a 1-minute piece.
Yeah.
You go, well, look what happened.
Right.
You were ready to run out of the room. The kid, and I've had this happen, scared, not seeing it, not catching it early enough, and the kid's out the door, 2 doors out of my office and onto the street for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's not what we want. I have to tell the end of that story, because the parents were running all over the city of San Jose, following him around, and he was like a scared horse. He'd run 100 yards, turn, right?
Yeah.
And he'd watch, and if he saw him, he'd run again. This went on for 2 hours. And in the meantime, I got clients coming in, and I told the parents, when you go out and look for him, come back and check with me, okay?
Yeah.
Who shows up first? Think about that for a minute. Worked for this kid with this kid for a while. He still had a lot of reactivity, so he left at some point, because I wasn't, I'll blame myself. I wasn't helping managing the affect, as much as I needed to. And he came back first. He came back. I opened the door after the next session. There he's sitting in my office. What's that say? It says trust is building because he came back to the safe place.
Yeah. I love that. For those of you that follow us and have been through any of our trainings, I talk about the attachment cycle, right? Trust is the final product of somebody being attuned to you. So we're stressed, we're reacting, our nervous system is aroused. Then after that, right, we have this need, we're trying to communicate this need. And then after we communicate this need, in a early experience, somebody who's attuned, an attuned caregiver, responds with that gratification, right? They read it correctly. They give them, a baby a bottle because they're hungry, or they put them down for a nap because they're tired, and they have that attuned experience with each other. Then trust. And what you just talked through there, right, is that you just, even for a minute, right, if for a minute in the office, people are so hung up, and it feels like you can't do much when you have 50-minute sessions, and that's how our mental health, and some of you all know how I talk about this, the colonized mental health system is cut into 50-minute sessions to do something, but in that 1 minute, and he comes back to your office, right, because he had a gratifying experience with you. It wasn't with the caregivers at that moment, right? It was with you, and modeling that for parents, for those of you that are parents out there, of really watching out for that responding versus reacting, and giving a gratifying experience of even just sitting there in silence, right? We talk about this a lot in brain spotting training, etc., the attunement window, it's not the intervention we're doing and even the strategy in our head, but just sitting calmly in our presence and ourselves with that individual. And for all those you out that are dealing with constant stress response in today's world, I mean, you know, I've been talking about it on here a lot, right? Environmental crises that people are going through. We have a huge fire not far from us here in Bend. We have environmental factors, we have political factors that are at play that are affecting everybody on all walks of life in different ways. And then people come to us in crisis. We interact with it on social media, we interact with each other, and all it takes is a minute of attuned presence, meaning I'm not reacting, I'm just taking a breath, I'm responding using the heart math, being heart-centered in ourselves with that individual, and they have a gratifying experience. It only takes a minute. A minute dosage, magic minute to have a gratifying experience and experience the felt sense of trust.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
This is somebody because that's the connection part, right? The trust in a relationship. When people are in reactive space, it only takes a minute of them feeling that we're trustworthy and us being calm in our own selves, and us gifting them. You talked about that there, right? Gifting them our centeredness and connecting before we're correcting. That's the other thing. It's funny. There's some of these social media things out there about fixing the problem. There's a funny one out there. If you all look it up, a man and a wife are sitting there, and the lady has a nail in her forehead, and he's saying, just take the nail out. The husband's saying, just take the nail out, but she's sitting there talking about all this stuff that's bothering her. And we want to fix things right away for people, right? That's our human response. When a friend is hurting, we want to fix it versus be present with it and just be there in that responding and heart-centered place. For you parents out there, right? Your kids come to you from stress from school. I just had my son at his first high school experience and just sat with him as he's going through this new experience, and not telling him what to do and not fixing it for him, but to just be present with him, sitting next to him as we're going through this school experience, which is stressful for a kid going to a new high school. Right. These things happen every day. So I think a lot of parents feel lately a lot of hopelessness with the amount of overwhelm that kids have coming out of COVID, isolation, anxiety responses. Me and Craig interact with these things commonly amongst parents, and our biggest gift, there's a quote out there, the biggest gift we can ever give is our time, right?
That's right.
To sit and just give even a minute, you all. Can you stop for a minute and just be present with your child, your partner, your friend, your colleague for a minute, and just be present in your heart with them, not fixing, because that's reacting, but just responding, being there, responding with our presence and our heart presence. That's bottom line what we're talking about here, right?
One of the things I'll just add quickly, I'm not sure how much time we have, but another aspect of this is being in touch with the self. So heart math, which I learned from Steve and have been studying since then with heart math and doing more and more. Probably about 50% of my clients end up doing heart math as part of their treatment, and I do a diaphragmatic breathing with that. So I kind of teach them together because the breathing takes them in, and I actually have them monitor their diaphragm, and I'll teach them to put their hands on their belly and let that diaphragm move. And one telling feature of working with people is when you first start doing this, many people, a good percentage of them, can't locate that muscle. They don't use it, and it remains fixed because that's part of a stress response. When we're threatened, it's torso.
Brace up,
Brace up. And they feel that threat, and so to ask them to kind of, just sit back and move that brings up a lot of feelings right there.
Yeah, and that's, so you're taking them out of bracing response towards their body. Some of you all, Carrie talks about this on the feeds, interoception, to go inside to sense our body. And as, Beth's book out there and other books, the body keeps the score.
Exactly.
You just do a basic diaphragm breath and you're already stepping into, feeling all that's there, keeping your bracing response. It's so underestimated in the therapeutic world right now. There's all this breath work going on. I'm a trained free diver. I'm a third generation spear fisherman and abalone diver. And there's this trend in mental health world right now around breath work, which is extremely powerful. But one thing, and I've interacted with this quite a bit, the simple step of just noticing the diaphragm for people that have extreme acute stress response or trauma in their body, that by itself, if we slow it down, can bring up everything all at once.
That's right.
And there's these aggressive breathing approaches going on that can have a healing capacity, but at the same time ignite all that trauma response, and then leave people very overwhelmed,
It's overwhelming.
dissociative, as we
Right.
talk about, or disconnected. So we went in to connect, but we went too fast and too much, and then now I'm disembodied as the end result, right?
So I might work for 3 or 4 weeks just doing gentle breathing.
Yeah.
Not the aggressive type. I've done some of that before.
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
own work, but in my own work, but just doing this gently and focus and learning to relax so the muscle functions, and then teaching them to drop the breath. Now, what we find too, that has a biochemical shift and influence in a positive way on the flexibility of the vagal response.
Yeah. It really, with the more development, even since HeartMath's focus on the heart brain and heart neurology is and its influence on that whole system. But you're talking about really the gut brain, which a lot of science is talking about more now. And hear this, you all, a simple exercise of self-connection. It's better, by the way, if you have extreme trauma, to do it with somebody. That's the co-regulation. Me and him are connected to each other right now, electrically and relationally. So the connection to this felt sense of your diaphragm and breath, being very mindful. Carrie talks about this a lot. The Trauma Center for Embodiment talks about this a lot, which is the idea of dosage. How long can I connect with this felt sense of my diaphragm or my heart before the trauma kind of acute stress response starts to rise up loudly, right? And it's being able to take small little doses. For you, when you do this, how long, are you doing this with a client, speaking generally to the general public, of noticing your diaphragm breath? What do you see for people's ability to do that for a length of time? How long are you generally doing that in your office?
I do that maybe initially with a trauma influenced client. We have to go very slowly, because the first response you might get is avoidance. And of course, with kids, 8 or 9-year-old, they'll just get up and they'll want to do something else. And
Yeah.
start whining and complaining about things. And they won't want to do it, and they won't focus on it because it brings up too much too soon. And I don't do any eye closures with this, because that's even more regressive. So I'm not like doing a meditation with eyes closed and doing
I love that. That's
because
important.
I think that I've seen very bad reactions. I've learned by mistake, right? I've seen bad reactions where you have to come and all of a sudden kind of rescue the kid from that, because that's gone way too fast.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we talk about that, and I do in a lot of my trainings, right? For some people, when they close their eyes, it increases their interoception capability, which means they connect to more of the trauma that's stored in the body too, right?
Right.
And so when we direct people in just a trauma responsive training for anybody out there, when we tell somebody that they should close their eyes versus inviting them to try closing their eyes, and then if that's not good for them too,
To have that report out and let them increase in give us feedback, what's happening.
Yeah, in that moment, not just diving into it and directing it. We talk about that a lot in trauma responsive training, you all. When we direct and tell people to do stuff, they'll do it out of compliance, and even do their closed eyes. All of a sudden, they're having flashback memories and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay to try this with your eyes open.
Right.
Eyes open or closed.
So close observation, I think, again, a clinical point for people that are thinking about it or already do this, to enhance the effect is just you have to observe the physical responses. You're looking at the body language, you're looking at the face. Where are the eyes? How are they moving? Are they able to focus on you, or now are they averted and they're going into a dissociative kind of trance type thing, and you want to bring them back from that. You want to stay in the present. So this is a very present-oriented type of intervention.
Yeah.
So as much as it kind of would be called what they call in therapy regressive, it takes you back in time, we're kind of saying, no, let's just stay right here.
Yeah.
Let's just stay here. you and me are in a safe, comfortable space.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And then we try and we do the breath. What comes up? Can we now feel a little bit of, as I do it, just demonstrating, I always feel like, oh, my shoulders are relaxing, you know, I'm moving easier. A breath. You know, and then what's that feel like?
Yeah.
You know, little baby steps.
I love this, and what you're talking about, right, is we talk about this in a lot of the deeper Digging Your Roots trainings of rescuing a person to the present, right? Our bodies are caught out there, focused on stress response of what's in our environment around us, our families, our neighborhoods, whatever is going on, and rescuing people to the present moment. And listen, you all, for those of you that want to try this stuff at home, listen to what he said. Just notice it for a bit and then stop, you know, because if you're not doing it with somebody to support that and watch and observe what's happening for you, your body will start to speak from the past pretty intensively. So this is what we're talking about with dosage and just experiencing your body and that breath and noticing what comes up and then letting it go in terms of stopping even, so that you're not going too far into your journey with it, just experiencing your body for a moment.
Yeah, because that feeling of aloneness and isolation with your big problems is overwhelming to anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So being relational with it, and this is why, you know, when I do heart math, or now I'm doing some Safe and Sound protocol, which is a Stephen Porges developed protocol that's involving music and listening to music that's been altered frequency-wise. Anyway, both of those should be done initially in the presence of your companion, okay, your trusted person.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point, you all, as we work on wrapping up here, that, you know, you can try some of these things we talk about here, and it's always best with somebody that you trust and have a bonded relationship with, because their frequency, their physiology of their body affects ours and can help us with that. And, you know,
a co-regulating effect. You know, just being
together in it. Yeah. Being together in that moment, in this moment in time together, like we are right now. Man, I'm grateful, Craig. I knew we'd take off on this one, and it's beautiful. You know,
we did, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We can do that when we get together. And thanks for, you know, those of you out there watching, and you know, being mindful that everything you need is right inside of you. You know, it's journeying towards that. You know, there's a lot of the therapy world chasing quick solutions and fast solutions. There's lots of things going on in the psychotherapy world, and what you need is right inside of you. This simple breath, the heart focus, noticing and connecting with your body. This being a discipline, and I've shared about this being a discipline I have to do every single day in today's world before I even pick up my phone and start feeding it with anything from family text to social media. I start every morning with that connection. And one step I add to it is the connect, and I try to do it barefoot on the grass even, of feeling connection to the ground that's below us, you know, and grounding. You know, this is electricity, basic electricity principles, right? We're electrical bodies, and so in that, these simple things, the medicine is right there, you all. You know, Craig's been doing this for, you know, a long time, you know, 30 years of experience, and look at where he starts. Simple. Just noticing your breath and your diaphragm and working from there little bit by little bit. So for those of you who are out there that are working on your journey, doing that little bit by little bit and keeping it simple and not opening up too many doorways at once, you know, and just being able to step into our bodies and experience that. So, man, I'm grateful, you know.
I am as well. You know?
We have a beautiful sunrise happening behind us, you all. You know, the other thing I've been talking about, mentioning, and I put it on my personal Facebook with all the stuff going on in this world, you know, just stepping outside in your natural environment. I was just in Boston this last weekend, and I go outside to ground myself, and, you know, here's a little tiny garden right there at the space we're working at with sunflowers, stopping and smelling the flowers, literally, the trees, and going out and feeling connection to that. So as you're connecting with yourself, it's very helpful to have a natural environment around you, even if you're in a city where there's a park space or a garden with flowers or something that you can feel connected to. If you don't have a human being that you can trust, and there's many people out there that have that experience that they don't have that yet, you want to build that. But one environment that we can step towards and have a connection feel that helps us with our electricity in our body is just being outside, connecting with the flowers. We have water here. We have the beautiful sunrise, the trees. If you're in a city environment, some flowers, one tree. I used to do that in New York City. I wouldn't see anything. I couldn't even see anything on the horizon, right? Just tall buildings. And I'd go out and I'd see one tree on the block. And I would go to that tree and be with that tree. I still do it. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
you got to.
yeah. And in that, like our natural environment, you know, some places it's more accessible than others. I'm grateful and blessed to have this beautiful natural environment that I can return to from my travels and do these kinds of things and even shoot our Facebook Lives right here in the spot. So,
yeah, what a great studio.
Yeah, we have a great studio here. You are welcome to the Sawyer recording studio.
Yes.
And, so we're grateful for you. Any parting statements for you, Craig? You're such a good friend and so much wisdom there.
A parting statement is, you know, I think just to underscore what Steve just said is check in with yourself. I mean, we learned this in, you know, if you went to graduate school and became a therapist of some type or something, you know, you learn that, you got to check in with yourself, you got to do your own work. But this is really what your own work really is, what Steve is describing as a daily kind of an attention to where you're coming from. And there's a mental preparation, but also kind of the body preparation of just being, you know, ready to be there, ready to be present.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Craig, for all your work. Remember that he did mention attach.org. Always been a fan of them. Presented at their conferences for years. I've been back there for a while, but great parent programs in there, online ones. Craig does courses for them from time to time, so definitely take a look at attach.org. And
we have a national conference coming up in the spring in San Antonio. So if
in San Antonio,
you make that would be a great experience.
Yeah, there's lots of resources for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a look, attach.org. Man, there's a lot of courses and wisdom there, you know, and Craig's a huge part of that organization, and grateful to have him here with me this morning. What a beautiful morning we have here to share with you all.
Likewise, and, it's been a pleasure, Steve, to be here.
And you all, you know, we always reshare this. It'll be right up on our Facebook, but we've been rapidly going to our YouTube channel, developmentaltraumatraininginstitute.org. We've been doing a Facebook Live now every Tuesday for a long time. That YouTube channel is filled with those. They get transferred to the YouTube, so go in there and listen. And
great resources.
It is. It's a great resource, and you can go on there and go in there and watch these and share them with relatives or friends that are struggling. Just giving them simple things that speak to their world. That's part of being attuned, is to listen and hear what their world is saying instead of what my world is saying, and then to respond with some insight. And one Elder Don Coyas from the White Bison movement, who I trained for, and his daughter Kateri Coyas, all healing begins with recognition. So if you hear something here that you recognize and you share it with somebody, they start to recognize it. Then we can start to heal. Instead of being in reaction, we can start to look at responding. So. Again, you all, tons of resources out there. YouTube channel, developmentaltraumatraininginstitute.org. We have all our trainings up and running. We have cohorts for addictions right now forming for Cut from the Herd. And we also have Digging Roots Foundations, a developmental trauma online course that anybody can go through. We have professional, personal cohorts of that. Those are, we're just wrapping up our first cohorts and first test run with foundations, and people are loving it. Those are resources to you too. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Craig, for all your wisdom, and gosh, so many years of this is coming from a man who has thousands of hours of working with attachment dysregulation and developmental trauma, you all. So, just listen to it twice, 3 times, because, man, there was a lot of nuggets in there.
I just want to say, Steve, you've been a part of my journey. So Steve's an amazing therapist and a thinker, and he comes up with these wonderful ways of working with people.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Craig, and you all have a beautiful week. And remember, every day you have a chance to restart. It's a new day. I know there's a lot going out there, overwhelming people, but every day you can restart any time in your day and take off. So Take care, everybody. Have a beautiful week, and we'll be back on with Facebook Live here next week, Tuesday again. So thanks for joining us. Take care.